At the beginning of the year 2093, monsters of unknown origin appeared in our world. Meanwhile, the crime rate increased significantly. Things got worse in 2095. The government weakened and was defeated. That same year, something appeared, a unique and powerful being. The first superhero made his entrance. Zero. All the evil organizations fell one by one. All the monsters were eliminated, and the supervillains were captured. He exposed the weaknesses of every monster and villain. No one could escape him. He was the savior of humanity and the leader of the rebellion against evil. In June, several inspired people started fighting criminals. By July, there were already more than 100 new heroes. But in 2100, that savior of humanity and the entire planet disappeared without leaving a single trace. What happened to him? Where is he? Who is he? I'll explain all of that next. 5 years have passed since Zero's disappearance, and today the fifth movie titled Zero, I Am Not God will premiere. We can see that one of the actors who plays Zero is a huge fan of this great superhero. He says he loves the character and that playing him is a dream. He also mentions that his favorite line is, "I'm not a god. I'm just a human who wants to end evil." That line inspired many others to gain confidence and fight against criminals. Among the audience, someone asks them to stop saying such embarrassing things. He wonders why they keep talking about him and even why they made so many movies if he was just a kid going through 8th grade syndrome. He is Lin Jie, and when he was a Chinibyo he used to call himself Zero. For those who don't know what a Chinibyo is, it's used to describe a phase or attitude typical in some teenagers, and sometimes adults, where they believe they're special or unique, fantasize about having hidden powers, epic destinies, or secret identities, act in a dramatic or exaggerated way, make up personalities like, "I'm not like the others." A clear example is the anime, The Eminence in Shadow. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Seriously, what are you doing with your life? Anyway, continuing. It turns out Lin Jie is Zero. The reason he disappeared is because he grew out of his Chinibyo phase. Basically, he snapped out of 8th grade syndrome. After that, he spent all that time just slacking off while he was missing. Eventually, his younger sister kicked him out of the house so he could find a job, since he hadn't worked for 5 years. That's why he was out on the streets. Suddenly, we hear several people shouting the name Shin De Ren. Lin Jie explains that they are a popular group from the 10 God family superhero duo, and that it's a waste of time to hold a concert in such a small place. But someone tells him that's not true. And it's none other than Sasuke. Just kidding, it's Xiao Zhan. He tells him to look the other way, and well, we see tons of fans. Lin Jie thanks him and heads over there. Now we're at the concert. One of the performers was starting the show when suddenly a bullet is fired. He notices it and manages to dodge it. The perpetrator turns out to be a rank C criminal seeking revenge. Since they took out some of his men, he orders all his people to finish them off. Suddenly, their weapons go flying toward the 10 God family, and they start throwing hands. With cheers from all their fans, it's the leader Jushin Sama's turn. He dodges and blocks multiple attacks, then in anger defeats the enemy with a single blow, hitting that Superman pose, cinematic parallel bro. While the 10 God family celebrates with their fans, the criminal was about to escape, but Lin Jie steps in and starts arresting him, saying that no matter how good you are, you should never let your guard down. The criminal, furious, starts questioning why he's being arrested, and we see one of his memories. Turns out Jushin Sama had made a deal with this criminal. He would defeat him, rank up, gain fame, and then pay him a large sum of money afterward. But the criminal, thinking Lin Jie was part of the 10 God family, gets angry and unleashes all his power, since getting arrested wasn't part of the deal, revealing he's not rank C, but rank B. All the fans were terrified, but they believed Jushin Sama would save them, so they started chanting his name. What they didn't know is that he had already pissed himself, and he gets hit with a massive attack, sent flying. His teammates notice and try to help, but they get the same beating. Lin Jie realizes this is the perfect moment for a super cliché power-up scene, where Jushin sees his friends defeated and they give him all their strength so he can unleash his ultimate attack and win in one blow. The criminal was about to wipe them out when suddenly, Sasuke appears. Last time I swear. Xiao Zhan shows up, declaring himself the legendary rank E hero who will defeat him in a single strike. The villain, slightly intimidated, prepares a finishing move, but instead he makes him an offer. He says, A 1 versus 100 fight costs $72,000, an even fight costs $42,000, but if he wants to say his epic lines, that's an extra $72,000. And that's not all. If the battlefield is considered too dangerous, there must be an escape route and medical support just in case. He even gives him a special deal. If he wants all that plus the villains acting dumb and begging for mercy, the whole package is only $140,000. What a deal. Xiao Zhan doesn't hesitate and is about to take the full package, but then remembers he's a hero and throws all that out the window. Even Lai Jing gets annoyed since he really hates that kind of thing. But that doesn't change the fact that Xiao Zhan is about to get wrecked. He pulls out his legendary ultra-powerful repulsor gloves, god-slaying, planet-destroying, galaxy-disintegrating, universe-collapsing, reality-erasing weapons, capable of moving even an elephant. But this elephant, he uses all his strength but can't move it. Because obviously he's not an elephant. Anyway, now defeated, the criminal is about to finish what he started, but before that, Xiao Zhan gets up and uses his electric baton that can split the universe in half. Unfortunately, the criminal stops it with his fingers and takes him down in one hit. Lin Jie asks if he's okay. He replies that he's perfectly fine, that a hero would never be defeated in such a humiliating way, and charges in with his full arsenal, only to get blown away again with a finger flick. On the ground, Lin Jie asks if he's alright. He says it's impossible, the enemy is too strong. Lin Jie tells him it's obvious, his weapons are just toys, but Xiao Zhan isn't about to give up. So he uses his ultimate move, his neighbor's dirty sock that hasn't been washed in 3 months. This enrages the criminal, who charges at him. Xiao Zhan accomplished his goal, he saved that guy, but now who's going to save him? Lin Jie tells him to run, but he refuses, saying that first he has to save others no matter the danger, and that's why he calls himself a hero. Lin Jie likes that. He recognizes Xiao Zhan's bravery and decides to save him. After defeating the enemy, Xiao Zhan can't believe it, this guy took him down in one punch. Without hesitation, he asks to form a team where Lin Jie will be the brute force, and he'll be the super intelligence, super weapons, and super beauty. Our protagonist asks him if he really has super intelligence. Honestly, I'd ask the same thing, not gonna lie. Suddenly, a luxury car arrives, and a beautiful businesswoman steps out, asking if the noise came from here and demanding an explanation from Xiao Zhan. He is completely shocked. It turns out the girl is Severe Winter Devil Lady, a rank 3 superhero from City W. Xiao Zhan doesn't waste a second and asks for an autograph, telling her he adores her. You know, full simp mode. The superhero decides to analyze the situation. She notices the criminal doesn't have any injuries and is only knocked out. With that kind of ability and endurance, it's hard to believe he's rank C, so she deduces he's most likely rank B. For more details, she asks Xiao Zhan to explain what happened. He tells her that he's a newly registered rank E hero and that he defeated the criminal with his assistant. But when he was about to introduce him, there was no one there. Turns out Lin Jie had already left to avoid Xiao Zhan putting on a whole show. When he gets home, he sees a man yelling at his sister, saying she belongs only to him. She doesn't get intimidated and tells him she never sold her body and that she worked hard to get into the Long Clan's Research Institute. The guy yells back that it doesn't matter, since he could get her into other institutions if she stays with him. Fed up with the creep, she throws him out and shouts that he should never come near her house again and that she will never agree to go out with him. Lin Jie, a bit concerned, tells her that man is the president of an institute where he bullies innocent teenagers. They also call him the uncrowned king of City H. And besides being extremely strong, he's a multimillionaire. She replies that she doesn't care, that the only man she's in love with is Zero, a unique, humble, brave being without equal, basically someone like me. Lin Jie, slightly worried, tells her that Zero will probably never appear again and that she should grow up already. But before he leaves, his sister asks if he found a job yet. He tries to dodge the question, but she sees right through him and starts yelling, saying it's been over 5 years and he's done nothing. Lin Jie responds that even their parents didn't worry about him that much. She replies that it's normal, because they've been dead for over 10 years. In the middle of the argument, Xiao Zhan suddenly shows up. Lin Jie wonders how he even got into the house, and he casually replies that a piece of gum is enough to open any door. He introduces himself, saying he's a rank E hero and that he came to recruit Lin Jie as a hero. And here we finally learn the sister's name, it's Wan, don't forget it. Since she's worried he can't find a job, the best option is for him to become a hero and work for Xiao Zhan, so he can earn a good salary. Lin Jie quickly jumps in to say he's not working for anyone, but as soon as Wan hears money, she declares that Lin Jie now belongs to him. He complains that he has no powers or experience, but Xiao Zhan reminds him that he took down a rank C with one punch, though Wan probably didn't even hear that. Lin Jie keeps complaining until Wan gives him an ultimatum. She doesn't want to hear a single excuse and he needs to start working. He immediately agrees, then gives Xiao Zhan a deadly glare, but it was just to ask if he wanted to stay for dinner. He accepts. Suddenly, the news reports that the 10 God family defeated a rank C mafia member, who apparently was rank B, and that they will now be promoted to a higher rank. But why are the news saying that? Inside the office of the Hero Association's president, there's a tense discussion. Severe Winter Devil Lady questions why he gave that false version to the media when the evidence is clear. The 10 God family did nothing there. Recognizing them and promoting them goes against all hero ethics. President Ouyang replies that the answer is simple. Heroes are nothing more than marketing tools to make money. Those heroes can generate profit, so giving them a little push benefits both the association and them. Severe Winter gets angry and condemns this, shouting that what he's doing does not represent the ideals of all heroes. But the president tells her to cut the heroic nonsense, that the only reason he's even explaining this to her is because she belongs to the Dong family and orders her to leave. Furious and fed up with his attitude, she decides to quit the association. Meanwhile, at Wan's house, Xiao Zhan, with a full stomach, happily says that even though his work wasn't recognized, the food was great. Lin Jie asks why he hasn't left yet. Slightly nervous, Xiao Zhan says he's about to show him something really cool. If that image looks familiar, it's a reference to the Jim Carrey hand in pants meme. Anyway, moving on. Lin Jie says he's not interested and tells him to leave, but Xiao Zhan pulls out the legendary Ion Fork 2.0. Confused, Lin Jie asks what it's for. Excited, Xiao Zhan explains it's for staying clean at all times. The 1.0 version only removed dust, but this version can get rid of even the toughest stains. A bit curious, Lin Jie asks how that would help them in combat, but Master Xiao Zhan replies that it's not for fighting, it's for presentation. He explains that nowadays appearance is super important, so always looking clean, polished, and good-looking makes them seem more intimidating. Lin Jie agrees with that idea, but reminds him that in the last fight he ended up dirtier than his neighbor's sock that hasn't been washed in 3 months, which completely destroys Xiao Zhan emotionally, and there's another reference. After that, Xiao Zhan asks him to show his giant weapon, the Wolf Teeth Club, and wonders how he manages to pull out such a huge weapon without anyone noticing. Lin Jie is about to tell the truth and says he has a really big pocket, but Xiao Zhan doesn't buy it. Might as well call himself Doraemon at that point. He adds that technology capable of storing things outside spacetime doesn't even exist yet, and that weapon is way too awesome to just keep hidden all the time. But Lin Jie refuses to fully take it out, and we see his memories explaining why he has that weapon. Years ago, Lin Jie was selling his dragon-slaying, god-crushing swords for only $150. What a deal, honestly, I'll take 2 please. A passerby approaches and asks if those weapons are real or if they can at least cut something. Lin Jie says yes and starts bargaining. If he buys the dragon-slaying sword for $150, he'll get a holy sword completely free. The buyer says it's too expensive. Lin Jie doesn't give up and offers the violet sword for $110 and throws in the dragon sword for free, but the guy says it looks ugly. Then the guy gets interested in a bow that looks to be in good condition, and Lin Jie takes the opportunity to hype it up, saying it's a high-level, legendary rank bow for $160. The young man agrees. Lin Jie then tries to gift him the Wolf Teeth Club, but the buyer refuses because it's too big. While packing the bow, the guy gets curious about some large swords hanging on the wall. Lin Jie warns him that those are for display only, they can't be touched or bought. Excited, the young man tries to grab one, but fortunately Lin Jie stops him just in time. Lin Jie then explains that if he hadn't done that, the buyer would be dead by now. Those swords actually came from the sky and possessed divine power. If someone without enough strength tries to wield them, they'll disappear instantly. That's why he stopped selling weapons, and also because the Hero Association completely banned the sale of magical weapons. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan grabs Lin Jie's attention and shows him a device that can make calls, watch TV, and read books, but also lets you see the most important and juicy stuff in the world. Lin Jie asks, "What's in those glasses?" And Xiao Zhan replies, Lin Jie, being a total degenerate, is instantly into it, but suddenly gets smacked hard by his sister, who kicks both of them out and tells them to go work. Outside, Lin Jie is annoyed with Xiao Zhan, blaming him for getting them both kicked out. Xiao Zhan defends himself, saying it's not entirely his fault, and suggests that since Lin Jie hasn't registered with the Hero Association yet, they should use the free time to sign him up. Lin Jie agrees. Now at the Hero Administration building, Lin Jie asks about the statue and comments that it feels a bit arrogant. He mentions that he only knows Zero but doesn't recognize the others. Xiao Zhan calls him out, asking where he's been living all these years to not know the great SS rank heroes who fought alongside Zero. In his thoughts, Lin Jie doesn't remember any of them and asks, "What are SS ranks?" Xiao Zhan explains that these ranks were established by a law enacted 5 years ago. When Zero disappeared, all the governments in the world had to come together and create a hero management system. That's when the Superhero Registration Law was born. Under this law, ranks, or categories, were introduced as follows. Class E, the lowest level, usually regular people who want to become heroes. Class D, low intermediate level, ordinary people with above average strength. Class C, intermediate level, people with powers and superhuman strength. Class B, upper intermediate level, humans with combat experience and far more formidable abilities than the average person, even compared to other heroes. Class A, high level, individuals with unique powers, giving them a strong advantage in battle. Class S, excellence level, people with unmatched abilities with enough power and endurance to destroy cities or even small countries. And finally, Class SS, deity level, unique beings extremely rare in the entire world. Zero belongs to this category, being the strongest of all. However, Xiao Zhan explains that this law caused many heroes to quit. Some were against it, while others supported it, but he decides not to go deeper into that topic and takes Lin Jie to reception. At the office, the receptionist reviews Lin Jie's personal data and gets a bit confused, since the name he chose is Lazy Soldier. Lin Jie explains that coming up with a name is way too hard. The girl understands and directs them to the first test, where his strength will be evaluated. She explains that inside the room there will be an examiner, specifically, the leader of the Muscle Alliance, a rank B hero as tough as a battle tank. His name is Yatan. The receptionist gives him some encouraging words and leaves, while Xiao Zhan pats him on the back and calls Yatan's attention so he can test Lin Jie's strength. At that moment, Yatan asks about the name Lazy Soldier, and assumes it was picked at random, dropping his weights as he speaks. Lin Jie immediately gets into a fighting stance, while Yatan raises his gaze and decides to observe the man behind such a peculiar name. Lin Jie quickly notices that those weights are no ordinary ones and realizes that this guy is strong. Yatan tells him that if he can last 3 minutes against his powerful arms, he'll pass the test. But Lin Jie asks what would happen if he manages to defeat him. Yatan bursts out laughing and asks, if someone without strength could defeat an examiner? He is the embodiment of strength, speed, and defense. He is Yatan, the war tank. Lin Jie, with a slight smile, admits that he's strong and says he won't hold back. Yatan, somewhat excited, accepts, and the battle begins. Xiao Zhan and the receptionist were both stunned by what just happened, while Lin Jie was completely annoyed. He really thought Yatan was strong based on how he looked, but in the end he was just like the rest, and Lin Jie defeated him effortlessly. Disappointed, Lin Jie summons his spiked hammer, lets out a small chuckle and says he won. He then asks the receptionist what his final ranking is, and she, slightly scared, tells him it's a perfect score and that he should proceed to the next room for the written test. Right after, she runs off, shouting that a young man just defeated Yatan. But she wasn't the only one shaken. Even Xiao Zhan was trembling, wondering what Lin Jie actually was. After being unconscious for a few hours, Yatan finally wakes up. Sitting beside him is a young woman who tells him he's been out for over 2 hours. Slightly intimidated, Yatan asks why Miss Dong is here, and she asks him what happened. He says he only remembers the moment when he was about to test a boy's strength, and that's when his memories start connecting. Miss Dong asks if he remembers everything now. Yatan can't believe it, he lost, but it doesn't make sense. He only recalls that in the middle of the fight, the kid threw a punch and after that, everything went blank. Miss Dong tells him that according to the cameras, he lost right after that first hit. Still in disbelief, Yatan asks if he was really defeated in a single blow by a rookie. Miss Dong explains that the rookie is strong and has A-rank combat ability, but there's something she doesn't like, and she shows him the boy's exam. When Yatan reads it, he can't believe it. That guy was an idiot. Not gonna lie, my exams used to look like that too, but there was something important in that test. In question 8, Lin Jie mentions that he stopped being a hero a long time ago because he wasn't sure if what he was doing was truly in the name of justice. The results are already posted, and we see Xiao Zhan making fun of Lin Jie, since he only scored 13 out of 100 on the written exam. He then asks how it's possible that he got a perfect score on the physical test but did so badly on the written one. Did he even finish high school? While laughing at Lin Jie, they both overhear a group of people intimidating a boy. They question why he had to catch a thief if they were going to do it themselves. The boy explains that if he hadn't stopped him quickly, the thief would have escaped. The thugs respond that they don't care whether he escapes or not, since they were the ones supposed to capture him. The boy argues that if he had let him go, he could have harmed innocent people. But the bully yells that it doesn't matter. Why would he care about the lives of useless people? It's better if everyone screams for help so he can save them and earn more achievements under his name. Meanwhile, Lin Jie and Xiao Zhan are listening to all of this in the background. The thug threatens the boy, telling him to leave unless he wants to get beaten up. The young man can't believe what he's hearing and shouts with all his strength that they are not heroes. Right after that, he gets beaten down. At that moment, the thugs tell him that they are heroes. The authorities themselves recognize them as such. Then mockingly they ask if he doesn't know that the heroes from Zero's era are all dead. That's when Lin Jie and Xiao Zhan step in, shouting that Zero is not dead. Xiao Zhan adds that he doesn't care what they do to that nerd, but insulting Zero? That's unforgivable, and he's definitely not going to just stand by and do nothing. And that's it for the video, guys. If you want a part 2, drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next upload.